always tell when a streak's going to come to an end. You win a couple of games, you probably shouldn't.
There are teams out there that could use that quality of playoff goaltending. All right, Ray, you ready to do this?
Yep, let's go.
All right, let's bring in our good friend Ray Ferraro, is who I was going to say home office, but for those on the YouTube channel joining us live here, Ray, not home office, but this time of the day, this time of the morning, you do have the flexibility of changing your position for the podcast, and that is a beautiful backdrop.
Well, thank you, but this has to do with Zuby and Steve, I'd assume, complaining in the home office because the sun comes in there, and they're artists, right? They're like, oh, the sun, the back. I don't even notice, but so I moved out here. And then the sun never came out today. As somebody once said, well, sun didn't come up today. Somebody said sun didn't come up today. And so anyways, that's why I'm here.
They got good players. We got good players. I can't wait to get on that oil bench. I mean, it's going to be endless moving forward. It's one of the best parts of having Mike Babcock back in the NHL, to be fair.
Well, that was, I know we're going to get to it, but that press conference was something.
Yes, it was
the
something.
Other day. I didn't even, he was more defiant, Like, I don't know. I thought it was, it was a thing. It was something, man.
We will get to it here. But one of my favorite takeaways, and kudos to Ryan Rishaug, who came out and asked tough questions right out of the gate of that media availability. Important questions that needed to be asked. But I think it was Jason Gregor who asked about how Babcock historically has approached his players. And he goes, why do you have to be such a dick? And Babcock goes, yeah, well, you know what? First off, thanks very much. That's a good question.
Like, well, okay. Is that
where are we going here now?
Is that not a phrase that has come into the everyday? I really appreciate the question. Nobody appreciates those questions. Nobody wants them, but it's now become a regular thing. I appreciate the question. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
And then he went on and didn't answer it. So anyways, move on, Drakes. Let's get on. We'll get to
okay. Well, I'm going to be distracted throughout the course of this live edition of the Ray and Dregs pod, just because there's so much going on. And we'll get to all of it here coming up in the headlines. But I did want a quick thought from you on World Cup of Soccer. I mean, this is a hockey podcast, but you are a soccer family through and through. Yeah. Are you feeling good about Canada going into the knockout round against South Africa? Disappointed that they weren't able to beat the Swiss? What's the Ferraro house like right
now? Disappointed that they don't get to host the 32 game, which would have been awesome because it would have given them a few more days off as well. As it turns out, they get probably a better draw by going to LA, and they end up with South Africa and not Korea, which it looked like for most of the day yesterday. So hopeful, I guess. If you can get through the 32 round, I mean, then you're getting in with the big boys, right? Like
the big boys, yeah.
The hill gets pretty steep, but it's been incredible to watch. I got to tell you, the city this is just like what the Olympics were like. And, and Drake, you were out here, and the difference is there's not events every day, but man, when there's game days, the plazas are all full. People are in really good spirits. The games, I don't know, there's not an edge to the support. It's just like, it's people are happy. They're enjoying it. And our families just loved it. If somebody steals our couch, they're going to have the ass prints of my 16 and 19-year-old on it because they haven't got off the couch in a week, man. We honestly, it's on start to finish every day. We just love it.
Awesome. Ton going on, as we kind of alluded to
Crazy.
off the top of the pod here. It has been crazy in a good way, with all the trades and whatnot. And look, we'll get to the Canadian Brewhouse headlines here momentarily, but as agents and managers have kind of explained to me, part of it is the fact that we know the free agent pool is very shallow and getting more shallow seemingly day by day with bigger players getting traded and doing the old sign and trade. But also, aside from maybe Vancouver, who continues on their path of a rebuild, call it whatever you will, we normally this time of year, Ray, you've got upwards of a third of the league that's renovating, rebuilding, doing something aggressive in that sense. And you don't have that now. What you have is a majority of teams that are looking to get better, improve their roster now because they think that they're right there. They're right on that line of contention to be playoff worthy. And to some degree, that theory is fueling what some of the activity has been all about this week.
I would piggyback that with saying that the GMs and the agents, thereby the players, they're all figuring out the new landscape at the same time. So
Yeah.
You have these teams that all feel that maybe we're not in the top echelon, but man, we're in that next group, and the next group is spread, right? So it's spread from
Yeah.
maybe 4 or 5 teams to 12 or 15 teams that think they could be in that group. So they want to get better. The market's changing quickly. The lack of free agents makes teams have to be more creative. That creates bigger deals, creates more news. I think it's really pretty fascinating to see how things have moved so quickly. And you can get caught standing there holding your hat if you're not on it. I mean, it seemed like once that first big deal went, everybody's like, okay, well, I got to get going here because I can't wait. I might get left with no seat. And it really, really interesting.
All right. Well, we'll start with the Washington Capitals. We'll do that in the Canadian Brewhouse headlines. Hey, real fans know the move. You arrive early to the Canadian Brewhouse. Runs Monday to Saturday. Happy hour, 2 p.m., 6 p.m., starting at $3.99. Skip the couch, hit the Canadian Brewhouse. You're home for every goal and every cheer. Ice cold drinks, massive screens, best fans in town. Hey, we're going to see you this summer at the Canadian Brewhouse. Okay, so as mentioned, let's begin with the Washington Capitals. First, they acquired Jordan Kyrou from the St. Louis Blues, right? In exchange for Connor McDavid, a talented young forward, a prospect, and the 16th pick overall. That was then followed by landing Alex Tuch from the Buffalo Sabres in a sign and trade for David Kampf and a draft pick. And Tuch then gets an 8-year contract worth $84 million, 10.5 AAV. So 2 massive ads for the Washington Capitals.
So this speaks a little bit to the move on plan from Ovechkin. Like, Ovi's not
smells like it. Yeah.
So you've got to provide offense. Now, whether Ovi comes back or not, each year that he comes back, it becomes in somewhat of a reduced role. Like, I'm stunned that he ended up with the goal total that he did last year. Amazing. The guy is a machine. But they coach around what he can't do anymore. And that's okay. I think that's smart because why expect him to be 30-year-old Ovechkin? He's not. So they bring in 2 forwards. They both can skate. They both are offensive players. Now Tuch's a bit of an interesting one. He had a career year at age, I think, 32, and then went flat in the Montreal series. He didn't have a goal. And so you're probably taking a thought that this is a guy that still has 4 years or so, or 5 years of top offensive production, that he can be a 30-goal guy. He kills penalties. He does a lot of things that kind of fit in the Washington system. Kyrou's a burner. He can fly, he can shoot,
Yeah.
and Washington can use some of that. Here's the other part. Washington has 3 or 4 prospects that are just outside the NHL that are giants, monsters. And so if like wait till you see, Alexei Protas, you've seen his brother or
Yeah, his
Ilya.
brother. Yeah.
Yeah, is bigger. Like they're both 6'5". So
Yeah.
they've added speed and skill to a couple of these younger, bigger guys that are coming. I got to tell you, Washington has done their management, even as they've transitioned from McClellan to Patrick in the GM's chair. They have done an amazing job. It
Yeah.
looked like they were in a full retool a couple years ago. And then the next year they won the Eastern Conference. Last year they had 95 or 96 points. So I think they've done an incredible job in Washington.
Yeah. Okay, so Bo Byram and Gordon Greenway go from the Buffalo Sabres to Chicago for 4th pick overall, 45th overall, and a prospect. Byram, we expect, will command a 4-year extension on July 1st, around 12.5, maybe north of 12.5. I had clubs tell me, Ray, that depending on the tax market, the expectation was he could command upwards of 14 million. So you go to Chicago, it's a little more, you're smirking. It's a little more tax favorable, but they paid an enormous price in Chicago, but they obviously covet Bo Byram.
So I'm going to get to the price first because we all just have to get used to it. These are the prices of today.
Yeah.
But so I know Connor McDavid gave money back. So next year, Bo Byram and Connor McDavid are going to make the same money. Good for Bo. Like, awesome. Fantastic. Holy, that's a lot of money.
Right.
So once I get past that, now I look at the trade. Connor Bedard's been in the league 3 years. He finished no higher than 31st. This feels like not panic, but urgency.
Right.
Like it's one thing to collect these picks and collect these young players, but at some point you have to make those picks become players. And if you keep on waiting for all of these draft picks, pretty soon you're 5 and 7 years out, and Bedard's 2 years from free agency. And then you've got a real problem.
Yeah.
And for those that think Bedard's not going to be a top end player, look at where his points and goals have gone in each of the 3 years with virtually no help. So they think Byram can help. I don't think he's a number 1 defenseman. I know Bo. He's from around here. He is. I thought he was at his very best in the first round against Boston. Outstanding. But I view him as like a 2-3 guy.
Yeah.
So, but they need to get better. They can't keep spinning their tires and say we're building for the future. The future becomes now pretty quickly. And I think that's what's happened with this deal. Man, like there was a lot of talk, and I was part of it, of, man, Jarmo Kekäläinen took over in Buffalo, didn't do anything for most of the year. They went on this run after Kevin Adams was fired. It was Kevin Adams' team. Well, the season ended, and Jarmo has not stood around. Like these are significant moves to a team that also has plenty of young players right behind these guys. And so that's part of it. Now they've got a bunch of draft picks as well. Maybe you can move draft picks for players. I think well, you would know better than me, Drakes. Isn't that the next phase of a lot of this? Teams accumulating
100%.
these draft picks right now. And then there are teams, you mentioned Vancouver. Is Pettersson part of this? Is DeBrusque part of this? Does Besser become part of this? Does Hronek become part of it? That's just Vancouver. And there's other teams as well that might look, because they've accumulated so many picks, right? Maybe they
Yeah.
move those picks for players.
Yeah. Look, we're going to see a lot of jostling here, and it's the primary reason why we're doing this edition of the Rain Dregs podcast live, because changes are going to happen, occur hour by hour. But you're bang on in considering Jarmo Kekäläinen and the Buffalo Sabres as somewhat of a linchpin here moving forward. So they've already made that big splashy trade, a couple of them, right? Looked after assets. And I'm looking at Winnipeg and wondering what Cheveldayoff is going to be able to do with Connor Hellebuyck. But you look at that Buffalo situation in goal, I'm sure Jarmo would love to stabilize that goaltending position. So if you're able to convince Winnipeg that, hey, it's not a rebuild by any stretch, you've got too many good players, maybe it's a bit of a retool. How does this fourth pick overall look? You want to throw a prospect into the mix, maybe something else, a goalie, UPL, I don't know, pick whoever you want. Is there something that can be worked with there? So Buffalo, in a lot of ways, as we have this conversation, is not holding things up, but key in all of it to some degree.
Yeah, but so Dregs also, Buffalo doesn't, I don't have the list in front of me, but they've got another first rounder, right?
Yeah.
And I believe, is that correct?
I believe so.
I guess I got this machine in front of me. I guess I could pick it up here. So what if it's a player, one of their younger forwards? They have a whole pile of them. What if it's a player?
Buffalo?
It's UPL. Yes.
Yeah,
with Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Mertka.
Oh, you're saying a roster? Yeah.
Well, no. I told you to think about some younger players.
Okay.
That are there. I told you last time, and
yes, you did.
There are some really interesting picks here. I'm just going down. Yeah. So Buffalo's got the 20 pick as well.
Yeah.
What if it's the 20 pick, one of those young players that is right there, that is a really good player, that's a centerman? What if it's one of those players and UPL, right? Winnipeg gets 3 parts. Maybe it's not the 4 pick. Maybe they use the 4 pick somewhere else. Like maybe they use it somewhere else. By the way, in all of this, in all of this, they also signed Zach Benson to a 7-year extension. I'm telling you, that guy, I watched him in the playoffs a lot this year.
Yeah.
He's Brad Marchand. He's little and tough and skilled and a pain in the ass, and his teammates love him. And so much of it, in my opinion, projects to what Marchand was at the best of his. Like, I think that's the path he's on. And Marchand's still a really, really good player. But they sign him for 7 years. That is a really nice piece of their team.
It is. So again, to pump Jarmo's tires here a little bit, and you have to be opportunistic as a GM. Sometimes stuff like this doesn't fall in your lap, but good things will happen when you've got assets like Byram and Alex Tuch that others covet, right? I was told for Byram, plan B, the second choice was San Jose. And the reason San Jose made the trade with Ottawa, which we're going to get to momentarily, sending William Eklund to the Ottawa Senators for, there were other pieces involved in that trade, but Eklund was a primary piece for the 9th pick overall. That's why San Jose made the move, right? Is because they wanted to grab that 9th pick, thinking that was possibly going to be the asset that, among others, maybe that would get Byram out of Buffalo. And then Jarmo had the bigger deal, obviously, with the Chicago Blackhawks to back him up as his primary choice. So it is interesting, again, this time of year, how all these little pieces of the puzzle do have a fit, right? And it's not always the conversations that you're having over here that prevail. Often it's plan B and sometimes plan C.
So what if San Jose decides to keep both of those picks?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. There are different projections at number 2. It could be Reed. It could be Stenberg. But what if they took Stenberg at 2 and one of the 6 or 7 defensemen at number 9. Like, that might not be the original plan, but oh my gosh,
Agreed.
that'd be an amazing draft for them.
Yeah.
If Mike Greer takes both of these picks and uses them, he's been the
Yeah.
GM for 5 years there. That'll be 10 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Now, they just used
See,
one of them, Eklund,
yeah.
to in the Ottawa deal, but it is it is pretty interesting how, with the luck of the lottery ball, they get Celebrini, and now they get the number 2 pick.
And
And
which
so
is in
now,
play still, by the way, Ray. It's still in
sure,
play.
yeah, yeah, what
Yeah.
I'm saying is now you have a chance to make significant impact to your team, whether
Right.
it's with that number 2 pick, or if that 2 pick goes somewhere else, or if they use the 2 pick and use the 9 pick somewhere else for the defenseman. It is crazy because if you look I'm just looking at this draft order. I hope they're gonna get a little side table for St. Louis to sit right off the left side of the stage. They
St.
got
Louis is
4
trying to
first
move up,
round picks.
though. They're trying to move up.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me give you a scenario here. So they've got the 15th and 16th and 11th pick. Okay. Do
Yeah.
you remember the Boston draft in 2015 where it was Don Sweeney's first draft, and
Yeah.
they made this move, and they ended up with the 13th, 14th, and 15th pick. And the whole exercise was to jump up in the draft. And
Yeah,
it
it didn't
didn't
work so
it
well.
didn't it didn't work. But the plan was there. The other teams just didn't play ball as the way that they had hoped. So they ended up with 3 picks. I'm sure
Yeah.
St. Louis doesn't want 4 picks in
No.
the first round. But what can you move, and how do you move it, and where does it go? Because you just laid out the scenario. San Jose got the 2 pick because they were hoping to move that for Byram,
The 9
right?
pick. Yeah.
Or the 9 pick rather. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
oops, now we got to do something else. Like, this is going to be a fascinating, what is it, Thursday? Fascinating
Yeah.
couple of days here.
How do you think Steve Stais did, by the way? I mean, they were pushed into the Brady Tkachuk trade,
Yeah.
which we talked about earlier this week. So Tkachuk goes to Florida. They get that 9th pick as part of that package. Again, that pick is delivered to San Jose for William Eklund, Casper Haltinen, and Brandon Svoboda. What can you tell us? What can you tell Sens fans about what you know of Eklund and where he's going to fit in Ottawa?
Not a big guy. Um, um, for me, a little bit light, but really good, really smart, really slick. Um, can be a bit of a utility guy.
Yeah.
And I don't say that diminishing what he can accomplish. I mean, he can play in different positions in your top 6,
Mm-hmm.
and be a really effective player. He will, like, he can play with Stützle and
Okay.
be the right guy. He can be the right guy. He can move the puck. Now, if you had Stützle and Eklund together, you'd want, in my mind, a bigger, heftier guy with them to do a little
Okay.
bit of the I don't know, the down low in front of the net work. But he's a good player. He's smart. He can move the puck. For me, he's a little light to be at the top end of your roster. And then I look at Carolina and go, oh yeah, Stankoven's small, or Stankoven's short. Blake's not tall. And I'm
Yeah.
like, those guys manage just fine. If you're the right guy, it doesn't matter. You can't have 8 of them, but if you're
No.
the right guy, it doesn't matter. And that's what I would say. They should like it. They should be excited about Eklund because he's a good player.
Excellent. All right. Calgary makes a significant trade. They trade 2 firsts that they acquired from Vegas and Colorado, so not their own, and a second for Simone Nemec and Maxim Tsyplakov. Nemec's name has been out there since
Yeah.
pre-trade deadline, and I guess it's contractual related, but I'm not sure why. He strikes me as being a pretty important player with a decent future ahead of him.
I wonder if he got blocked a little bit in Jersey.
Yeah.
Um, Jersey was kind of straddling. Are they a contender? Are they a builder? What are they? And Nemec kind of got lost. He didn't really he couldn't really grab a spot and make it his. And that, like, the opportunity was there when Dougie Hamilton was out for most of the first part of the year, a year ago. And it didn't quite, he didn't quite stick. And
Right.
so when I look at him, I mean, I know what he is. He's a puck mover. He's an offensive guy. Um, but he hasn't been able to be that yet. Now Calgary's in the position that they can bring him in and he's going to get that opportunity. And
Yeah.
he's going to play that. Now I so now you've got Parekh and Nemec on the
Yep.
right side of your blue line. And so now you can say, okay, our offensive guys are here.
Mhm.
I've got to pair them with different types of players on the other side. I that's a pretty expensive trade, right? The 2 first rounders. But here's the thing about the first rounders, I would say. In almost every case, you're looking into the future with these first rounders. Calgary does not, by this trade, want to get stuck in the perpetual wheel like Chicago is of just collecting first rounders and second
Right.
rounders. They want to take a step ahead. And so you trade years of development for a player that's more mature, even though it's
Mhm.
by just a couple of years. Because most of these players are going to need a couple of years before, even though younger players are more ready to contribute and be effective now than they've ever been. I think there's
Yeah.
more 18, 19, 20 year olds that will be able to play because they're just prepared better.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what Calgary's thinking as well with this deal.
Yeah, and you're right. It bolsters their blue line. I know there's also a bit of activity around Zach Whitecloud, and why wouldn't there be? I mean, teams are going to call, "Hey,
Mhm.
you add this piece. Does that mean that you're open to at least a consideration?" And the indication I'm being given is it would take a significant offer for Craig Conroy to trade Zach Whitecloud because one of the players you mentioned, Zane Parekh, and how
Mm.
good he is for the development of Zane Parekh as a young NHL defenseman. So you never say never, but there's a fair bit going on around the Calgary Flames.
Okay, so I would, here's for fans of teams that aren't doing anything right now with maybe a veteran player. It doesn't all have to be done today or this weekend. A player like Zach Whitecloud, as soon as you mentioned his
Yep.
name, you know what I thought of was trade deadline.
Why not?
Because
Sure.
no, but I mean, if he's part of an insulation for Nemec and Parekh through the season, and then teams, everybody finds their own water as they get towards the deadline. They're like, we need a right-handed D. We need Whitecloud's a bigger guy. He's a
Yeah.
good player, but we could use that. A team that might not think about him right now in, oh, we should have him, might
Yeah.
think differently come March. And
Mhm.
he's the type of guy that I would put in that framework.
Okay, well, all of the trades that have happened and that we will continue to speculate on somewhat overshadowed or at least help distract. Maybe that's a better way to describe it, Ray. The Oilers from entirely owning the news feeds this week. Mike Babcock introduced as head coach with DJ Smith as his associate coach. We knew it was coming, but now it was official. And as we talked about really off the top of the episode, I don't know that we need to get deeper into the media availability. We can, I suppose, in just a minute, but I thought it was important first to hear from Connor McDavid, who offered his thoughts on the controversial coach hire to our Ryan Rishaug.
You're essentially asking this coach who's known, he can be a hard ass. That's known about Mike Babcock. You're essentially asking this coach to come in and be hard on us. Like, we want you to be hard on us. Not a lot of players would necessarily, find themselves in that situation or be willing to take that on. Like, why do you think it's necessary? Why are you?
Because it's different. It's something that we've never had in Edmonton. And we've had a lot of coaches come through there, and they've all been great in different ways, and they've all failed in different ways. Babs is going to be different. He's going to hold guys accountable. He's going to hold me accountable. Starts right at the top, starts right with me. And I want him to do that. It starts with Leo, and it moves on down to Bush and Heisey and Nuge and everybody. And we want him to be hard on the top guys. And we want him to make, everybody else better, including us too. We want to be better. We need to be better.
The practical application of that, Connor, he talked about how it's easy to talk about that in June, and I know you know that, but the
Yep.
practical application of that could well be, a second unit power play jumping over the boards more often than you're used to, or your minutes getting cut back a little bit here or there, or if you get cheating a little bit looking for offense, then suddenly, maybe you're parked on the bench. Like, those are the practical applications of that. And I'm sure you're aware of that, but you feel like you're just in a place to embrace and accept those things.
Yeah. I said this earlier today. It's not something that you want every day, to be sad or to have a hard conversation, but it's all part of it. It's all part of it. And it's something that we haven't had in Edmonton, as I've said, ever. And I want to be pushed. I can be better. Leon can be better. Bush can be better. And I think Mike can do that.
All right. Well, there's fantastic stuff from Ryan Rishaug and the captain of the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid. By the way, that full interview is up on tsn.ca, so you want to listen to that. And I don't know if, Ray, is it a show of maturity, somewhat desperation, or just recognizing that as good as Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, all the players that have been mentioned who were on board with this hire, campaigned and pushed for this hire of Mike Babcock, get it, that their games need to evolve, need to change to get over that Game 7 hump.
Well, I just, as I'm listening to the clips there, I'm like, wow, he just sounds so much older. He does. He sounds wise, and I don't know that accountability and Connor need to go together. Like I don't know. You might want him to play a minute or two less, or man, I don't ever think of that with McDavid.
No.
I just never do. The coaching part will be interesting because I played junior against Mike. He's not very good, and so he's not going to be able to help. The deficiencies of the team because they still have to improve the team. The accountability. The one thing I think there will be is Mike has a way of being of coaching a tight defensive team. Like his teams generally aren't leaky. Toronto at various times went off the rails a bit, but they were generally speaking a better defensive team when he was there. That's part of the deal in Edmonton, right? Is can you check well enough to give our offensive guys enough room? They still, Tristan Jerry ended up, on watching in a ball hat for a lot of the playoffs. Like their goaltending still has to find a way to be better. Can the defensive system be better to help the goalies out? Like, can it be? We're going to find out. Do they have enough forwards? Maybe a nurse trade brings something that helps there. Do they have enough forwards to balance out? Like you could take 2 or 3 minutes away from Draisaitl and McDavid, but if you put players on the ice that don't do anything or can't contribute or can't check with a vigor that you want or create momentum that you need, if they can't do that, then you're just taking away a couple of minutes. And I think that's probably where the coaches previously got stuck. Is the Game 7 team was their best team. That was their best team. And it's not just because they went to Game 7. They were a really good team. And since then, they've gotten progressively less effective, I think. And so that to me is what this is going to be all about.
Yeah.
Can Babcock coach around those holes in the lineup? But as far as accountability isn't just yelling and screaming at guys. It's about having a message that you can sell and make clear to the players that they can execute. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of words. And one thing with Babcock is, whether you like him or not, is that his message is pretty clear.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't get into the flowers of, he's not a wordy guy. It's like, this is it. And I think that will become very evident very quickly.
Yeah, and then look, not an indictment, just an acknowledgement and observation from coaches, a couple of them who have coached against Mike. Their expectation is that the Oilers are going to blast right out of the gate. That message is going to be driven home through training camp, probably happening already, right? They're going to respond initially, but these guys are curious to see whether or not this collection of players are willing to fully embrace and sustain the level of play that will be demanded. But I don't know about you. I'm ready to move on with it, though. Okay, now let's judge Babcock and DJ Smith and management and Connor McDavid and the leaders of this team based on what we see and the results of next season. Because the judge and jury has already been played out, right? And if it fails, people are getting fired. Not just the coaches, managers, senior managers. People are getting fired. I mean, you don't put your neck on the block with a controversial hire like this unless you don't care, because you believe this group is now the group that's going to lead you to that championship.
Or it's 0-2 and you got one chance to hit a fastball. That's what I think it is. Like, for me, is that we're out of fiddling around and trying to figure this out and inching our way forward. And we're all aware, like, the storylines are so big, but they're so evident. We know that a year from now, if the Oilers are still ankle deep in the mud, that McDavid's got 1 year left on his contract.
Yeah.
That becomes a whole different discussion. They didn't bring Babcock in here for, let's hope we can be better in 5 years.
No.
Right? Like, the storylines are very clear, and we're going to get to see it play out in real time. And I would say what I'm really interested in is the level of patience Babcock has with a team that's going to play a different way in a training camp, don't forget, that is shorter. There's less preseason games. The season starts quicker, and you might not have enough time to implement all the things you want. How can they come out of the gate? We're going to find out. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
All right, let's wrap up the Canadian Brewhouse headlines here, Ray. Is there a team that intrigues you most that we maybe haven't heard from, or you expect to hear more from? Could it be one of the 2 Stanley Cup finalists? Maybe it's a Canadian team like the Toronto Maple Leafs, Vancouver. I don't know. Is there a team out there that you're keeping an eye on?
Dregs, I thought so, but like, I thought that I had a couple of teams, except there's been so much movement. It makes me think that the teams that we're looking at, should we be looking at? You know who we haven't heard very much from, other than a trade of an unrestricted free agent, is Tampa.
Right.
Tampa they generally don't sit around.
No.
They're generally relatively aggressive. I think Pittsburgh will be interesting here in the next little bit. They've got an enormous amount of draft picks and the opportunity to maybe package a couple of those picks to step forward. I'm just going through the teams because it's so hard.
Anaheim would be one, right, with McTavish?
Anaheim. Columbus is another. I think Columbus most certainly will do something. Dallas still always
that
seems
Robertson
to be
file is interesting. Oof.
Like, that's going to change everything there. They get them signed, that's one road. They don't get them signed, completely different look to their team.
Okay, let me
You know,
ask
here's
you
one
quick
more.
to
One
interject,
more.
though.
Utah.
Yeah.
Utah.
Seattle. I mean, we can come up with a
No, but I
dozen
mean, so we're
different-
coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think like Utah, the reason I'm just going through, the reason I think Utah is they got to the playoffs. They're young-ish,
Yeah.
but you don't want to waste that youngish while maybe you can strike while some other teams have players to move. They have enough young pieces, enough picks that they could do that.
Okay, put your GM hat on. And it comes at the expense of an incredibly consistent, productive winger in Jason Robertson. Can you afford to have two $12.5 million wingers on the same team?
I'm going to say no.
Yeah. Lots of people would say the
and
same. Yeah.
One of the reasons too is, you know, I just did the final. I'm standing on the ice. I'm right between the benches. The speed of the game. I'm telling you, Dregs, I don't know how it can get any faster, but the actual speed of the game is remarkable. So Rantanen's not a pacey player. Robertson is not a pacey player. And the wing, they're both wingers, of course. They're both $12.5 million, if that's what it's going to be. And now you bring the pace of your top two lines down. You bring your pace of your top two lines down.
Yeah.
And so I think in a team building thing, that becomes a question. Man, they're both damn good players, and I'd like them both on my team. If I had to pick one of them, I don't know that I would want both.
Right. All right. Whew. That's a lot. We got through it here on the Canadian Brewhouse headlines. Thank you to the Canadian Brewhouse.
It feels like Tim Hortons has always been part of my routine, certainly as a dad, you know, as a coach, or taking my kids to the early morning hockeys. Had to go through the drive-through and get my cup of coffee and get the Timbits for the kids. Can I get a medium coffee with milk, please? Then even driving into studio now at TSN. If I don't go through the drive-through, get my medium coffee with milk, I feel like my routine has been interrupted.
Here's your coffee.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
You too. Only way to start a day.
Go ahead.
You washed the truck before you did that. There's no question. There's no winter truck that looks that clean. Number one.
To be fair, I think it was maybe like 3-4 days old. I just got it. So I think it was
because it was pretty clean, Dregs. Pretty clean.
And right,
you know, and the other thing I would say is the only thing missing from there was once you took that first sip to go, delicious, something like that, something goofy like that.
Yeah.
And I see you didn't add the Timbits order on there either, eh?
No.
You just drove. Well, you drove around the front. You drove around the front and picked that up, didn't you?
Yeah. See, I look. I think we've got at least a couple of episodes of Ray and Dregs left before we depart for our summer vacation, which will be effective July 1st, post July 1st free agent frenzy. Just to have some fun. Is there not a 50-pack available? We should start the episode with you eating Timbits and see if you can get through 50 in one episode.
Are you kidding me? 50? Come on.
Easy?
No chance. That box does not have a chance.
That's awesome.
That stuff. If we had a pizza with it, like I think I can eat more of those two, more baked goods and pizza than almost anyone that I know. I love it. Can't get enough.
All right, buddy. We'll let you go here. Just planning for the weekend. I mean, obviously you're focused on what's happening around the NHL, which is a lot.
Yep.
A bit of golf and then soccer on Sunday. Is that what it looks like?
Well, soccer for sure is on the docket. The draft, of course.
Yeah.
I'm basically a solo parent for the next few days here with two teenagers that seem to think that food is available at every turn.
Yeah.
You
Just
know,
right
like,
there.
yeah, but Dregs, you had a daughter and a son, so they couldn't have eaten at the same pace. These two lugs that I have, one of them finishes, and then the other one comes down the stairs and is like, "Hey, is there any food?" Yeah, I just cooked it. Oh, could you get me some? So I finish his. Then the next guy's hungry. As my mom used to say, I'm not a short order cook. And unfortunately, I am. That's what I'll be doing this weekend, bud. I know
Good
you're
for
going to
you.
be crazy busy. I got to say
Yeah.
this, though. I hate that the draft is remote.
Lots do,
I wish it,
except general
I
managers
wish it
don't.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, I wish it was centralized because I just love the show of the draft.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
and it's not just for the kids that get to go up on stage, which I think is a great reward for their
Yeah.
18 years of work, but just the show of the draft. Is there anything better when
No.
the light goes off and you're like, oh, there's a trade,
Yeah.
and you're trying to
We have a
figure out
trade to
who is it?
announce.
Okay, are we going to do imitations the entire show next time?
Oh, try not to. I'm getting punchy.
We are. Man, enjoy the draft, everybody. I hope your team gets every player you want,
Yeah.
which they won't. And I hope it's a fun weekend. So have a good one, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, Ray. And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support us here on the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. Tim Hortons, our title sponsor. Thank you. And thank you to the Canadian Brewhouse. Until next time, as we look forward to free agent frenzy, enjoy the draft, enjoy soccer, and stay safe, everyone.